Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Super excited for today's episode. I believe we were up to episode 78. Wow, 78 individual guests already. Joining me, you can find them on Twitter at Dividend Lion. Go ahead and give yourself an introduction.
Hello, I'm Dividend Lion. I'm a welder by trade, and I've gotten into investing in the past 5 years or so. And it's been a pretty wild ride up and down, and settled on dividends.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. That's a quite the trade as well. It's June 1st as we're recording this, and I know you're not too far away from me. I'm in central to eastern Ontario, pretty much right on the border of central to eastern Ontario, and I know you're over there. Uh, Lion being a Detroit Lions fan, so you're there in Detroit.
Kalamazoo,
That's Michigan, right?
yeah, West Michigan, Kalamazoo area. Yeah,
Cool. So I'm guessing it's hot there as well, and like welding as a trade, welding is hot to begin with. So if you were working today, you were sweating,
last night was pretty rough.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I worked third shift, by the way.
Oh, so you're like working nights where a little bit of relief because it's maybe a little bit cooler, but wow, yeah, it's has actually been record-setting temperatures here for June 1st today.
Yeah, yeah. Last night's humidity was just something else.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, like, obviously, again, you're well affected by the Great Lakes as well as I am with the humidity. It's insane. People in other parts of Canada and the U.S. just do not understand the humidity that we have around the Great Lakes.
That's very true. Very true. Yeah, it takes a lot out of you most of the night, honestly.
Yeah, no, I get it. Awesome. So cool. Let's I guess let's dive into a little bit of your investing journey. Like you mentioned off the top there, settled on dividends. Sort of, it sounds like maybe you've like the rest of us, you've learned some lessons.
Yes, I have. I first started trading in penny stocks, and that was too slow for me. I couldn't deal with that at the time, So I don't know how I got into dividends from there, but uh,
Right.
after that, I got into Chinese stocks, and I did really good for a couple weeks, and then lost like pretty much at least half of everything I made. I doubled my money in a couple days, and then lost it all.
Yeah, like it feels incredible when you're riding that. It's like gambling in Vegas. You're riding this heater, and you just think it's going to keep going forever, but it obviously it doesn't.
I quit trying to predict Chinese stocks. They're too unpredictable.
Right. Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what were some of those Chinese stocks? Alibaba, was that one of them?
Oh no, I got into a they called it the Netflix of China. I was like IX or XI or something like that. And yeah, I went up like 2 grand. I'm like, this is awesome. It just did
Right.
not didn't learn,
Yeah,
but
and you're thinking, well, if it's the Netflix of China, well, there's like how many billion people in China, like 1.5 billion or whatever the population of China is, and you're thinking, okay, well, that's got to be an incredible, business platform. Everybody is on the internet, even. uh, and again, I have no idea what the demographics of China are for how many people have access to the internet and all of that, but
right.
you're thinking the amount, like over a billion people, there should be quite a few people that have the internet and can subscribe to a company like that. So I can see how you would get how you would say to yourself, "Hey, this looks like a good investment."
Yeah, turns out it wasn't.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair play. Fair play. So dividends. Yeah, obviously this is the passive income podcast. My audience, my viewers, they know how much we appreciate the that passive income of the monthly or quarterly dividend payments. So I guess let's talk about um, somewhere along the line in these last 5 years, you've made that transition into dividends, and I guess let's just start at the start.
Start at the start. Well, trying to remember what my first dividend stock. I think it was AT&T, and I still own some of them. Uh, the AT&T is AT&T. Everybody knows them. their history of dividend cut, and they're down at the moment too.
Right.
Their past earning wasn't that great either. Apparently, I learned to not look at AT&T. Just like the bottom, leave them there and just let them do their thing. I'm trying to buy more Verizon at the moment. But my favorite, my favorite stock is Maine though. That's my bread and butter.
Okay. Before we get into Maine, I just kind of want to point out, like with AT&T and T and Verizon, you have, I'm guessing those have to be the two biggest telecoms in the US. I'm not sure. Maybe Sprint is up there as well. Um, but it's
I
one
think,
of those things like ride it out, right? Like AT&T is not going anywhere. Like you said, everybody knows them. They've been around for I'm guessing over 100 years.
yeah,
And they might be down right now. Yeah, they went through a dividend cut there a couple years ago or whatever, but as a
yeah,
dividend investor, you're looking for that passive income and those long-term holds that are, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And AT&T to me isn't the worst. Yeah, you might look at it right now day to day and you're down a little bit. Like, I mean, and when I say down, like down emotionally from looking at it.
that's AT&T for you. But yeah, the dividend makes up for a lot of it, so
Right.
can't really
Right.
complain too much. But I still own it. So I still add here and there, if I'm look at it. But
Well, yeah, and that's another nice thing too is that, you know what? Hey, it's down, but I that means I can dollar cost average down. I can buy more shares for less money than I was however long ago when it was a higher price. So I don't know the exact chart history of AT&T like a year ago, 2 years ago, it might have been more expensive. But right now you're looking at it going, I can get more for less.
right, right. I remember I tried to trade options on AT&T once, and that was a disaster. Yeah, that's the one thing I really need to get more into is options. I know a lot of people do really well on that.
Yeah, I've had a couple guests try to like options trader Chris has been on here, and I've actually been a guest on his channel as well, Million Dollar Earnings, and him trying to explain options trading, and you could literally see the hamster on the wheel up here, just like spinning, like running his little legs off, like
That's exactly how yeah, I need to watch somebody do it like in person. It's the only way I'm gonna be able to pick it up.
right.
I
Yeah.
know
So,
Dividend Dream had a couple videos like that. Great person to follow right there.
yep. Okay. Yeah. Agreed. You mentioned Maine. I'm honestly not familiar with Maine, so and you said that one's your bread and butter right now, so let's talk about that one.
Maine is a BDC. They're kind of like the one of the top tier BDCs. They behave a lot like honestly, they don't move a whole lot. They go up $2, down $2. They stay around about $40, and they invest into. It's hard to explain because they don't give a lot of information on their exact holding. I've tried to dig into it, and they're all over the place. Their investments, but they've been steady and solid for I think about 17, 18 years now.
Right.
So they have a small dividend increases. They behave pretty close to O with just about a percentage more in dividend yield. So I still have O too. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So Maine, is it another REIT like that pays a monthly dividend, or is it like I guess you said that they're a little bit all over the place. We're not even sure what they do.
Ah, it's hard. It's hard to explain. I've tried to dig into it more, and they, as a BDC, they invest into smaller companies, but they have the what do they call it, the first line of debt. So if something goes wrong, they're the first ones to get paid. I forgot what
Okay,
the term is for it. So a lot of it's secure debt, kind of. So
interesting.
yeah,
Interesting. So you said you hold O as well, which obviously amongst all of the previous American guests here on the Passive Income Podcast, it's been
yeah,
one of the most popular. I would say 98% of past American guests have held O in their portfolio, and even some Canadians as well. I've had some Europeans on as well. They probably haven't had it as in their portfolio, but yeah, O is definitely one of those ones you look at and go, "Holy wow!" They just keep raising their dividend.
Yeah.
It's very incremental, small raises, but they just keep doing it. They just keep raising not every quarter, but I think almost every other quarter almost or something like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah, I was trying to convince my son here just recently to buy a share of his first stock. I'm like, that should be the one. That should be the right one.
yeah,
He's starting to take a keen interest in investing.
awesome. Just out of curiosity, how old is your son?
My oldest is 11 and my youngest is 9.
That's a great age to start teaching, right? Like,
Oh,
and really they can start seeing if between the ages of, that 10 and 20 years old, they can start to see how much investments can mean to them, how much passive income can mean to them in their future, then, that sets them up for such a better life than so many other people.
I wish somebody would have shown me investing a lot earlier than I got into it. Like I got into it like 27, 28, and the wrong kind of investing. But it's all coming together now, though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's another extremely important lesson that we seem to all learn at some point in whether it's in our 20s or 30s that, you know, penny stocks might look great and there might be these all sorts of other things that look great, but at the end of the day, you've kind of just got to sort of sit back, relax, and again, this is why I love the dividend companies, like
Oh yeah,
over the course of 15, 20 years, they tend to either keep up or outperform the S&P. So there's capital appreciation plus that dividend is rolling in every month or every quarter.
that's true. I remember I was investing into a penny stock called DS's Drive Shack, and I just looked at it just now, and it's down to 18 cents. It was up at like $4. Like, man, I'm glad I didn't stick in that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, like penny stocks too. Like they're so crazy because I've been there too. You'll pick one and it's at trading at pick a number 50 cents, 85 cents, and you think, okay, well, if this just goes up to $2 or 2.50 or
Yeah,
$3, and then like 6 or 8 months later, you're like, oh, this is at 15 cents.
I can't handle the heartbreak of that. Not anymore.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that one. So, okay, we've talked about Maine, we've talked about we've talked about AT&T and Verizon. What else
Yeah.
do you have in your I guess first off, how many different individual stocks and or ETFs do you have in your portfolio? And we can kind of give a breakdown of sort of what you like and what market sectors you like overall.
Well, I'm kind of all over the place. I tend to fall into rabbit holes and then just kind of dig into it. I'm like, oh, if I like that, I'll have some of that. My second biggest holding is ABR. I was just looking. I thought I had more REITs than what I do, but a lot of them turned out to be BDCs. I try to stay away from BDCs, but I like the higher end ones.
Right.
And then I got Ford as my third big one because Lions, they own the Lions.
Oh, do they? I actually didn't know that.
Yep. And Michigan based. It's kind of a luxury spend. My
Right.
my father used to invest in Ford. He talked about all the time. But back then, I didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But he'd buy in when it was low and sell when it was high, and that was the way he made a lot of money out doing that.
Oh, good for him. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's actually uh historically, and because obviously Ontario and Detroit are just across the river, like the Detroit River from each other. Historically, there's been both Ford and General Motors and manufacturing right here in Ontario as well.
yeah.
Car manufacturing, like I say, Ford and General Motors. I did want to bring up an interesting point. I don't know if you saw the news a few days ago. Ford announced that they have partnered with Tesla so that the new the new Ford EVs, electric vehicles, will be able to be charged at the Tesla supercharging stations. Have you seen that?
I did think I saw something about that. I'm kind of surprised the government didn't step in and make that happen either way. That's probably why they're doing it. Get ahead of the curve on that one. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have stations all over the country with different chargers on it.
No, but
Nobody.
there are because so this goes back to sort of the Sony like the Sony Beta versus VHS, or more recently for the younger viewers, like Apple versus Android. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I was actually talking with my boss about this earlier. I think yesterday, because I'm Android, he's iPhone, and he was saying, "Oh, they're finally switching on the new iPhone to a USB-C," and I was like, "Yeah, because the European Union made a ruling that they all had to be the same charging port." So Apple said, "Well, if we have to do it for Europe, we're going to do it for the rest of the world." So it
Yep.
makes sense that they're just going to go to USB-C. But going back to the Tesla supercharging stations, yeah, that's the way it has been so far. To my understanding, is that only Teslas have been able to charge on the Tesla superchargers, and all other EVs are on a totally different kind of charging station, which again makes no sense. Like, could you imagine going to a gas station and you could only fill up a Honda at one gas station, and at another gas station you have to go to another gas station for a Toyota, and another gas station for a right? Like, it
I
makes
honestly didn't know.
zero sense.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know that was a thing. I just assumed that they were already doing that because we have um, electric car chargers in our work parking lot. No one uses them though because we're welders. We all drive big trucks, but
Yeah.
I never got off and took a look at them. But yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, so and again, I think somewhere down the road, it has to get streamlined to, like you said, where sort of a one size fits all, right? Like, it
Yeah,
makes zero sense that only Tesla and Ford can charge on Tesla superchargers, and every other EV has to go. Like I said, could you imagine going to three different gas stations to fill up three different types of cars? It's like that's just ridiculous.
I'm sure GM would probably be shortly behind.
Yeah, you would think, right?
I mean, they'd have to. I, who else has EVs? I'm sure they
Oh,
all have models.
yeah, they're all trying to, I guess, sort of make their mark a little bit in the EV market, and right now Tesla has the lion's share of the market, and that's another interesting one too. People on, especially on Twitter, they're so bullish on Tesla, and I'm like, do you
Yeah,
not realize that these other car companies that have been around for 200, well, not 200, 100, well over 100 years, they're going to come in eventually. Sure,
yeah.
Tesla's in the lead right now, but it's not going to take long for Ford and GM to catch up. It really, in my opinion, anyways. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Oh, I completely agree with you. Uh, car cars are never going to be the thing that makes everyone a bunch of money. I think they figured that out, but there'll always be a need for them.
Right.
The margins are just not going to be what they used to be in the past.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement for sure.
But you know, I love Ford, so I just buy Ford. I'm that's a faith based one. That's not a
Yeah.
cards one.
Hey, well, I drive a 2002 F-250, so I don't know. You probably haven't seen any of my tweets because I know you and I just started following each other more recently, and I'm not sure if I've tweeted a picture of my truck in some time, but
I don't
it
know.
still looks like in mint condition. It's a
Yeah,
21-year-old truck, and it's got, when I bought it in 2012, so I've had it for 11 years now myself. When I bought it in 2012, it was a 10-year-old truck. It only had 60,000 kilometers on it. I've put about, I've put almost 200,000 on it. I've put about, I think it's at about 230,000 kilometers now. So, and that's in 11 years. So in 11 years, 230 isn't really a lot, right?
wait, kilometers, miles. I had to think about that for a second. I was like,
Yeah,
two.
I know. I'm sorry.
I was like, that's a lot. Yeah, I bought a Mariner not too long ago, probably about 2 years ago, and I bought that. I don't know, it was like 6, 7 grand, and that's probably still worth that much nowadays.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? The used, like, especially through COVID, the used vehicle market, especially used trucks, went crazy. Like, I'm sure in the height of COVID, I could have sold my truck 10 years later for more than I bought it for, which
Yeah,
was unreal. But then what would I have? Then what would I do? I wouldn't have a vehicle. I'd have to go out and spend twice as much on another vehicle. So it's like, I'm just going to keep what I've got.
and that was the one thing I learned from DivTwit is don't waste money on vehicles. Drive as
Yeah.
long as
Great
you
point, right?
and
I
save a lot.
you see that so often. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something?
Oh, it's just that Mariner. I was going to talk more about that car. Like I've done everything to keep that maintenance on the thing perfect, and it's performed so well. I go to the lots and I see that exact same car with the next model up from it, and they're trying to sell it with 50,000 miles more on it for 10 or $1,000 more than what I paid for mine back then.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They wouldn't even take my car. They said they would give me $500 for it. They didn't even want it. That's
Yeah.
crazy. No rust, low miles, perfect maintenance record. That's cars for you. Losing game all around.
For the most part, like you said, they're needed. We need them to get around, especially here in North America. Any European viewers that we may have may not understand because obviously, you know, in Europe there's a lot more trains and there's a lot more public transit. But here in North America, we're very spread out, and if you want to go from Kalamazoo to Detroit, you pretty much have to drive, and there's not a lot of other options, right?
That's very true. That's very true. And I just recently got off a cruise ship this past week. Went down to the Caribbean, saw a lot of things down there, and it's crazy. Experience a whole different kind of life down there. You walk everywhere pretty much close to.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and and here North America, both Canada and the US, extremely large, expansive countries that,
yeah,
we rely on not just our own personal vehicles to get around, but we rely on the trucking industry to move products from point A to point B, and it's like
yeah.
if it wasn't for truckers, all the store shelves would be empty basically.
I know. And was it California's trying to have no gasoline there, in, like almost 10 years from now. So maybe Tesla can find a niche in that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it'd be an interesting thing for them to see. Electric semi trucks. It's kind of weird to say, but
Oh, they exist. They're already out there, but
yeah,
I actually was thinking of that just actually earlier today or maybe yesterday. Is like, okay, but a trucker, everything about them is time on the road, wheels turning. Trucker doesn't want to sit for 2 hours to charge a truck, and I'm guessing to charge that size of a vehicle is going to take a lot longer than a Model Y or a Model S. You're going to charge it in 25 or 30 minutes. To
yeah.
charge a tractor trailer, it's got to take 2 to 3 times longer than that. No trucker's gonna wanna sit on the side of the road, like, at a truck stop for an hour or 2 hours charging his truck, right?
Well, I imagine the solution to that would be to exchange batteries at way stations.
Yeah, yeah,
So, that could be a good thing.
interesting. Well, we've definitely talked about, cars, electric vehicles, trucking, and, let's dive into another sector. Anything else that you have sort of in your portfolio or on your horizon?
I have LMT on my horizon. I really want to start loading the boat on that one. Just I love history. I love following history and watching all the what's going on in the outside world. Um, it seems like for the most of history there was you can buy Western war stuff or you can buy you know Russian ones, and now the Russian ones aren't available. So I'm like, the rest of the world's got to buy that stuff still. So I'm like,
Right.
they got to buy it from someone. The only ones left in the market is this side of the world. So I think that might be a chance. I guess I don't want to call it war profiteering though. It's a sticky situation, but
Yeah, exactly. So
but
sorry again, what is that company?
LMT Lockheed,
Oh, Lockheed Martin.
yeah, yep,
Right. Yeah, so obviously, big, huge company gets a ton of US military contracts.
yeah,
Everybody knows the US does not shy away from spending money on their military.
yeah. I love watching like economics, foreign economics, and India. They're always looking to buy stuff like that because they have a feud with everyone, all their neighbors, and their neighbors aren't going to sell to them. So I mean, they can't buy from Russia anymore. So
Right.
leaves a wide open market for them to buy American stuff. So I'm like, hey, that's a great opportunity, or maybe it already passed, or maybe they found somebody else. So it's kind of a risky game.
Yeah.
Definitely watch and see what happens with that.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Turn Turned into a bit of a nerd about defensive economics. One of my pastimes. But
Fair
no, that
enough. Fair play.
yeah. Everybody's got their weird little niche things, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What else? What else you got there?
I have Pfizer. Pfizer, it's a it's a hometown kind of thing. One of Pfizer's biggest facilities is here, and I've worked there in the past. And I thought it was a really stand-up company, and I was like, I want to get some of that.
Right.
Great stock, great company. Love everything about Pfizer. I know it's probably controversial in today's age, but
Well, controversy or not, we know they did well through the pandemic because they were one of the 3 or 4 companies that had vaccines and,
hmm
sure, people were getting well, I don't know how it worked in the US, but, obviously healthcare in Canada is different. People here were just lining up getting free vaccines, but somebody's paying for them. The government's paying for them. So at the end of the day, the taxpayer is paying for them. But that means Pfizer is getting paid to make those vaccines, right? So, like I said, controversy or not, yeah, business decision wise, solid choice, right?
oh, for sure. I wish I could talk more about them. Pfizer's kind of sticky on people talking about them, especially if you work for. So shouldn't say too much more, honestly. But
Yeah, fair enough. We can move on from Pfizer, but like I said, controversy or not, solid business decision. That's my opinion on it.
great company. I have nothing but good things to say about them, honestly. Um, I got some banks. I need to load up more on banks, honestly. I know it's kind of a poor timing with things that happened to banks recently, but I follow a lot of Darth Dividend, a lot of things he's puts
Yeah.
out, and he got me on to Huntington Bank, and that's another kind of local company, and I like them quite a bit. Started loading boat on them a little bit. That's the only bank I got though. I just looking through all this. That's the only one I have.
So Canadian banks are one of my favorite topics. And
Yeah.
before I dive into that, shout out to Darth Dividend, who has also been a past guest here on the Passive Income Podcast.
Yep.
You'll have to search through the videos there if you click into the videos. I'm not sure what episode number it was. And yeah, Darth is a great guy, and I definitely enjoy chatting with him as well and messaging him back and forth on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Canadian banks, though, like I said, actually just this past week I put out a couple of YouTube shorts about the Canadian banks. Uh, Bank of Montreal paying a dividend since 1829. Bank of Nova Scotia paying a dividend since 1833, and then the others kind of since the 1850s, 60s, 70s. Um, so going on 200 years of dividend history, like consistency and longevity of paying those dividends. It's like
Right.
it's mind-boggling. So, okay, I'm gonna test your Canadian history knowledge. Do you know what year Canada even became a country?
Oh
It's okay, guess any number because we know Americans don't get taught any kind of Canadian history. So I'm not gonna try to I'm not gonna it's not a bad whatever answer you give, it's okay.
let's go with 1830.
So that's a good guess. It's actually 1867. Uh
Oh
So, but can you believe that these banks, like, have been paying dividends for longer, like, nearly, well, 40 years longer than Canada has been a country? To me, that's mind-boggling,
yeah.
like, absolutely mind-boggling.
I would love to get it more into Canadian banks. I just don't understand how the taxes work in between the countries, so I just haven't looked into it.
Right. So, honestly, that might not be as big of an issue as you think because the Canadian banks trade on the New York Stock Exchange, so you could probably just pick them up as a US stock in American dollars and put it into your one of your US accounts, whether it's a what do you call them, Roth and Roth IRAs, I believe they're called in the US. Yeah, you could definitely look into them on the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, that's good. The tax laws always confuse the crap out of me over here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not the person to talk to about taxes either. So consult for anyone listening or watching, please consult a tax professional.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure my tax prep lady is probably not happy with me and some of the things I've done in the past. What do you call those waivers when you buy certain companies? I forget, like F11s or something like that. I don't remember. I was like, she's like, stop buying those things. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but
I forgot what it was. It's been so long. I learned my lesson to stay away from those particular companies. So
yeah, fair enough.
they should have classes on that stuff too, because it's like, man, you don't learn that stuff until it's too late not to
Yeah,
buy companies for tax reasons. And you
I
can buy,
know, right? It 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 does seem I know everybody talks about it and says like, you know, finances aren't taught in school, how to do your own taxes aren't taught in school. How well, maybe as a welder, you do use, like well, I'm sure you do use math a lot more as a welder, but for the most part, a lot of the math that we get taught in school is, like, the majority of people never have to use that, right?
yeah. I didn't even get into math until I was outside of school. Start getting into investing, and math becomes a lot more interesting. Talking dollars and cents, you can
Yeah,
relate.
the compound interest all of a
Yeah,
sudden, math becomes a lot more interesting.
it is definitely got me into it.
I Interesting, awesome. Anything else there in your list?
I got the energy stocks, ET and Exxon.
Okay,
Slowly adding to those two. Gotta watch for Exxon because they like to go up and down quite a bit. They,
right.
they recently hit their highs and they've been pulling back, so I've been trying to get back in and on that. But oil's kind of all over the place. It's hard to predict. I try to really kind of be light on energy stocks for that reason. I know there's a whole side of DivTwit that's nothing but energy stocks,
Yeah,
especially Canadian energy stocks too. There was a whole group of people that were just big on Canadian energy stocks,
yeah.
and
Uh, Enbridge for sure,
you know,
Tourmaline, Suncor and Algonquin, I guess, would so trying to that's sort of lumping oil and gas and energy sort of into the same category, which they're very similar category, and I tend to overlap them a lot when I do talk when I speak. So, um, but yeah, you're correct. There are a lot of Canadian oil and gas and energy companies that are talked about a lot on Twitter.
uh, yeah. Watched a documentary on Chesapeake Bay and what happened with those guys. They flooded the market and they kind of tanked themselves, went up and down, and that kind of made me real weary of energy stocks because them doing good could also be a bad thing. So I'm
Right.
like, I want to stay on top of that. Well, I'll stick with the big guys, Exxon.
Yeah. No. Exxon's obviously, um, a big solid player in the global market, and yeah, that I definitely 100% hear what you're saying. Like, I'm constantly watching whether it's in my own portfolio or wherever. It's like, is this trading at a 52-week high or a 52-week low? If it's at a
Yeah,
52-week low, maybe I want to snag a couple more.
right. That's a good thing at fin twit is div twit is good for is people find stuff like that and they start talking about it. Then you can sneak in there and start doing your own research. But I keep my alerts on for a couple people because they're really good at finding these little gold nuggets.
Yeah, I
I
would
don't think
agree.
I'm an investor as I am now if I didn't have Twitter.
Yeah, great point. Like, there's a lot of negativity about all social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the list goes on. But, if you're using it effectively the way we are in the DivTwit and FinTwit communities, it's just like, it's amazing what you can learn and the knowledge you can gain
Yeah.
from so many different people that whether you're learning from their mistakes or learning from their successes or just learning in general, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it's an endless rabbit hole. I could stay on Twitter and look through these. these guys' profiles and see all the things they're learning and doing and stuff like that. And you can learn forever. It's an endless well of knowledge.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
And I think Twitter on that front. Maybe it is for me personally. Facebook's more for family and friends.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. It sounds like we went through a fair bit of your portfolio. I am curious if you have anything in sort of the consumer staples and or consumer discretionary, the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis, the Costcos, the Walmarts,
I did just buy a share of Target.
Target.
Saw they went down. I did have a lot of that stuff, and I saw they were all kind of hitting their highs, and I kind of cashed out on them.
Right. Well, and there's another thing too, right? Like there's an old saying, it's never a bad time to take a profit.
Yeah. Also Home Depot. I got a little bit of Home Depot, J&J, and PG. But yeah, that's about it for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those are all very solid picks, right? Like you go through your house, whether it's in your kitchen, your bathroom, your laundry room, you turn that whatever product it is, the soap around or the toothpaste, and you're probably going to see a P&G logo, right?
Yeah, yeah. One of the safest stocks in the world, in my opinion. Companies, I should say,
Yeah.
companies in the world.
Home Depot also incredible. Hey, where did you go? Are you still here?
Still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Third shifter. I got alarms for everything.
I was just saying Home Depot as
I don't
well,
think I
like
can hear you
incredible
anymore.
company. You have my audio? Are we good?
I think I lost you.
Okay, well,
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you okay. No problem.
What in the world?
Well, I think with that, we may just
I don't
end
know.
this early. It's been an incredible conversation here on the Passive Income Podcast. I truly appreciate Dividend Lion for his time this afternoon. Unfortunately, we're having a little audio issue here, so we will just
Why is there no sound?
we can just say thank you so much for watching this episode of the Passive Income Podcast. If you are still here nearly 40 minutes later, please go ahead and hit
Dave, I don't tell you, man. There's no sound.
subscribe.